So you definitely know this face. It's Sam Altman. He's the CEO of OpenAI, right? The guy who brought us ChatGPT, the one who's meeting with world leaders to talk about, completely reshaping our global economy. For pretty much everyone, he is the face of this whole AI revolution. But here's the thing you have to understand. Sam Altman is the public face. He's the deal maker, the guy who sold the world on this incredible product. He is not, however, the hidden architect. No, that title belongs to this man, Ilya Sutskever. He's the brilliant, almost feverishly intense chief scientist who actually built the core technology. And then he became so terrified of what he'd created that he tried to tear the whole thing down. And let's just be crystal clear about this. Sam Altman didn't build it. And what's even crazier is that the huge breakthrough that makes ChatGPT possible, it wasn't even invented at OpenAI. Nope. It was basically a happy accident, a spark of inspiration in a random hallway at Google, dreamed up by a few researchers who were just trying to fix the translation. So today, we are going to pull back the curtain. Let's forget the CEO in the spotlight for a minute. Today, we're going to meet the real architects, the kind of forgotten geniuses who actually cracked the code. This is the untold story of the people who really built the god in the machine. All right, so our story starts somewhere you probably wouldn't expect, a hallway at Google way back in 2017. This is long before ChatGPT was a thing, before this whole AI boom really kicked off. And back then, well, AI was kind of stuck. It had hit a massive wall. So here was the problem. The way AI processed information at the time was, well, it read just like we do, one word at a time, from left to right. Now, this old way was super slow, and even worse, it was forgetful. By the time an AI got to the end of a long paragraph, it had basically forgotten what the beginning was all about. It was like trying to understand the entire history of the world by reading it through a tiny little straw. And that brings us to this one conversation in a hallway that literally changed everything. You've got two Google researchers, Ashish Vaswani and Jakub Usgaray, standing by a whiteboard, just venting their frustrations about this whole thing. And then another colleague joins them, Ilya Polasukin, who happens to be a huge sci-fi fan obsessed with the movie Arrival. Now, if you've seen it, you know the aliens don't speak in a straight line. They communicate their entire complex thought all at once in this beautiful, intricate circle. And that just sparked the question, wait a minute, why can't AI do that? And this led to a completely radical idea. What if, instead of reading left to right, the AI could just look at all the words in a sentence, or heck, the entire internet, at the exact same time? What if it could pay attention to every single word simultaneously and figure out the importance of each word compared to all the others to get the real context? So like in the sentence, the robot crossed the road, this new model would instantly know that robot is the key thing, not road. They decided to call this new architecture the transformer. Now, as luck would have it, standing just a few feet away was this legendary Google engineer, a real coding wizard named Noam Shazir. When he overheard this wild idea, he didn't just say, that's interesting. He immediately got it. He saw the potential and famously just said, I'm with you, let's do it. He started coding right then and there, and the result was this groundbreaking research paper published in June 2017 called Attention is All You Need. And this, right here, is the central tragedy of this first part of our story. Google had it. They were holding the golden ticket, the engine that was going to power the entire future of AI, but they just didn't act on it. They were this huge, cautious company, way too scared of the risks of releasing a product that might say something wrong. So what happened to those 8 authors, the inventors of the future? Every single one of them eventually left Google. But another lab, a smaller, hungrier one, was watching very, very closely. Okay, so this brings us to the next chapter, where 2 of these geniuses take that same core idea of the transformer and run with it, but down 2 wildly, dangerously different paths. This is the story of the priest and the prophet. First up, the priest, Ilya Sutskever. He was the chief scientist at this small nonprofit research lab called OpenAI. Now, Ilya is not your typical tech guy. He's a true visionary, one of the students of Geoffrey Hinton, who's known as the godfather of AI. For Ilya, building AI wasn't about shipping a product or making a quick buck. It was for him a deeply spiritual quest. His goal was to create AGI, artificial general intelligence, a mind that was smarter than any human. So while Google was just sitting on its invention, Ilya's team at OpenAI grabbed the transformer idea and started playing with it. And that's when they stumbled on something truly bizarre, a mathematical pattern they called the scaling laws. These laws basically revealed that to make AI smarter, you didn't need a more clever algorithm. You just needed more. More data, more computing power. If you made the AI's brain 10 times larger and fed it 10 times more data from the internet, its intelligence would increase by a predictable amount every single time. It was like discovering a law of physics. It turned this mysterious art of AI into a predictable science. It was like knowing if you just keep adding fuel to a fire, it will eventually, inevitably, turn into a star. This discovery, this was the moment everything changed. Sam Altman steps in, takes over, and he realizes the main challenge isn't a science problem anymore. It's an engineering and a capital problem. He needed billions of dollars to buy thousands and thousands of computer chips to make the models bigger and bigger and bigger. He transformed OpenAI from this quiet little nonprofit lab into a jagged corporate weapon with one singular focus, scaling up. And it worked. It led them to GPT-3 and then to GPT-4. But while OpenAI was busy building its star, what was going on back at Google? Let's go back to our second genius, the ignored prophet, Noam Shazir, the wizard from that hallway conversation. He was still at Google, and he was building something of his own. So in 2020, years before anyone had ever heard of ChatGPT, Noam built a chatbot inside Google called Meena. And from what everyone said, it was smarter than anything the public had ever seen. He was so sure of its power that he wrote this memo to Google's top execs, and he titled it Meena Eats the World. In it, he basically predicted that this exact technology would one day replace search engines and be worth trillions. He was begging them to release it. And what was Google's response? The exact same caution that held them back in 2017. They just said no. They felt it was too risky to release a chatbot that might make mistakes and hurt the company's reputation. So frustrated and completely ignored, Noam Shazir did what all the other authors of the Transformer paper had done before him. He quit. But get this. Here is the unbelievable twist to his story. 4 years later, after ChatGPT had, in fact, eaten the world, Google realized they'd made a catastrophic mistake. They needed Noam back. So in 2024, Google paid $2.7 billion to acquire his new company. And the reports suggest this whole deal wasn't really for the tech or the users. It was mostly just to get Noam Shazir, the prophet they'd ignored for years, back in the building. Meanwhile, back at OpenAI, things were getting really, really strange. As GPT-4 got more and more powerful, Ilya Sutskever, our priest, started to change. He wasn't celebrating. He was getting deeply worried. He was seeing the AI show off these unexpected abilities, these flickers of reasoning that he just couldn't explain. And his behavior got more, well, ritualistic. Reports claim that at company meetings, he would lead employees in these chants of, "Feel the AGI, feel the AGI." It was starting to sound less like a company and more like a cult. And then came the most chilling story. At a company offsite, Ilya apparently commissioned a wooden effigy to represent an unaligned AI, a machine that doesn't share our values. And then he set it on fire in front of his whole team as this stark, ritualistic warning: if we build this thing wrong, it will burn us all. The final straw for Ilya seems to have been this secret internal project, codenamed Q-Star. Rumors started flying that OpenAI had made a huge breakthrough, creating an AI that could solve math problems it had never seen before. Now, that might sound small to you and me, but to AI researchers, that's a massive leap toward genuine reasoning. For Ilya, this was the red line. He believed Sam Altman was just pushing too fast, too recklessly, basically selling tickets to the apocalypse. So all this tension, the fear, the ambition, the ideology, it was all about to just explode in one of the most dramatic boardroom showdowns Silicon Valley has ever seen. This brings us to the climax, the coup. On November 17th, 2023, it finally happened. Ilya Sutskever, the man who built the brain of ChatGPT, led the company's board in firing Sam Altman, the man who sold it. The official reason they gave was that Altman hadn't been consistently candid with them. I mean, it was a coup, plain and simple. And what followed was 5 days of just pure chaos. Nearly every single OpenAI employee signed a letter threatening to quit unless Sam came back. Investors were freaking out. And in the end, the coup failed. Sam Altman returned as CEO. So after his coup failed, Ilya's position was pretty much impossible. He officially left OpenAI in May of 2024. But he didn't just disappear. He immediately founded a new company, and its name tells you everything you need to know about his new mission. It's called Safe Superintelligence Incorporated, and their mission statement is a direct shot at the OpenAI model. No products, no distractions, just safety. And that brings us to where we are today. The original architects who gathered in that Google hallway and in the early days of OpenAI have now scattered. They formed two rival ideological camps that basically define the entire field of AI right now. In one corner, you've got the progress camp, led by Sam Altman at OpenAI and, ironically, the returned prophet Noam Chomsky back at Google. Their goal? Build and ship powerful AI as fast as humanly possible. And in the other corner, you have the safety camp, led by Ilya Sutskever, whose only goal is to solve for safety before we dare to build anything more powerful. So who really built this AI revolution? Well, it wasn't just one man in a suit. It was a group of dreamers in a hallway, an ignored prophet, and a spiritual genius who stared into the digital abyss that he created and blinked. The original architects are now rivals, their paths now completely split. And that means the race for AI is no longer just about who can build the smartest machine. It's become a much deeper question about who controls it. So I'll just leave you with this thought. Who do you trust to build the future?